G'day everyone, we are back with part 3 of my underwater scene, and I've still got mess all around me, so I'm not gonna clean anything up because I just want to carry on with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to glue some little jellyfish around, and it doesn't really matter. Like, oh, that's not really gluing, is it? Hopefully that will glue. Just regular glue for, what does it say, rubber, tiles, laminate, metal, timber. I reckon that'll stay there as long as it bloody sticks for a little while I'm getting my stuff together. So I'm going to pop another one over here. It's going to be my jellyfish. I don't want to go around with resin just yet. Oh, come on, stay there. Hopefully that'll glue. If it doesn't, I'll just use another glue. And I'm pretty sure I had another one here, which I might just pop on this side here, just like that. Little jellyfish. So I've got two there, and I've got another one over here, which looks pretty cool. Once I get the resin on there, it'll be different. What else can I glue in there? All of this is looking really brilliant. This little fish that's hiding underneath there, I'm going to paint over it with acrylic paint. The boat's looking great. Yeah, a few more little fishies that I want to add in there. Where was that real cool one that I had? Maybe that one can go in there. Hold on. Okay, so I took a moment and placed some of the objects around where I wanted them, and I'm going to go around and glue them in as well. And then, once I cover them with resin, they'll be locked in. So these things that weren't gluing as good, they're sort of sitting there now. And some of the pieces need a little bit of acrylic work, which is what I will do. I'm just placing them right now, positioning them. Just go. That one can go down that way, and I'll draw some. I'll paint some feathers. Rather, I can move it down a little bit actually that way. So feathers, not feathers. Gosh, where am I? Fins and tail and things. And this little, oh gosh, I know you want to go there, but you can't. You're going to go right here. Sorry. Right there like that. It actually looks a bit like a fish. It's got a, oh my god, this glue, seriously. It's got a bubble here, which looks like an eye. So that's going to sit in there. This piece here, as well as my little treasure box, which has kind of disappeared amongst all that glittery treasure, gold and all the diamonds and everything, my god. And I did put some of the holographic glitter over there, so it looks real sparkly. And a little fish in there. I have to, make sure I highlight it so that it doesn't get lost in there. There's another one here. So yeah, what I wanted to say about these pieces is, in case I haven't mentioned it in the previous video, is that they were given to me by a dear friend. Now, where did this one come from? I just pop it in here. I know it came from down here somewhere. It's alright, I can go here. A dear friend, Claudia Mills, she made them by painting over CDs, just your regular CDs, DVDs, and then bake them, and then they come out looking bubbly and wonderful like that. So I'll pop you over here. So they're quite effective now. I've got quite a few of them, but some of them actually look like fish, so that's why I popped them in there. That one, did I glue that one in? Yeah. So I just got to wait a moment to get them to actually glue in there. Didn't do that one. Pop some glue on there. And oh my god, this glue really stinks. I hope it does a job, what it's supposed to do. Okay, you're not going to believe that I did this whole video. I edited the whole thing, and I had some of it was audioed and some of it was just the original, and bloody hell, the dogs are bloody barking now. What the heck's going on? Everything's going against me with this video, except for the painting itself. It just went great. I do apologize about the cursing. Yeah. What I'm doing here is just adding some of those pieces, some pieces of resin skin. Some of them are clear, so I'm going to use them as jellyfish. The top right corner, you can see there, and just adding some pieces of skin to create fish. I've kind of placed them around where I wanted them to be, and then glued them in with just the glue, which wasn't the best glue. And I'm going around with glue now and filling in the holes in my sea sponge, because I want to put some gems in there. They're just the yellow tourmaline, which is like an orangey kind of color, so they're going to go in inside those little holes, just to give me a little bit more texture and a little bit of cool effect, I suppose. That white round thing that you can see in the middle top of the painting is just just a jar sitting on top of that fish, trying to glue it in. It really didn't work in the end because it just wanted to float up top, which was really annoying. So I ended up removing it and letting it set, because I covered it with resin. But that's yet to come. So yeah, just popping in those little gems into the holes. And some of the gems were too big, so I had to kind of fish around and find smaller ones to fit them in there. And just adding some more little skins around that sponge to kind of create like a coral around the sponge. So that little skin there is getting a little tail, and shortly some fins, creating a little fish, which looks pretty cool. So here comes the fins. And because the white acrylic that I was using was quite bright, much brighter than the white that was in the actual resin skin, so I went around the piece, the whole thing, a little bit with the acrylic, just to continue the story of a fish, so it doesn't look too odd having a really bright tail and the body looking a little bit off-white. And that little fish that I've got there, which was another resin skin piece, just adding the tail and some detail. I'm doing the same thing with the white because the actual body looked a little bit off-white with that green. So I just added a little bit of that acrylic white over the body, just little stripes and things, just to make it look like part of that story there. And now working on this little jellyfish, adding some tentacles there, and also adding a little bit of body to the actual body of the jellyfish, and doing another one right next to it. The tentacles were a little bit odd looking because, you know, the surface is quite bumpy from that bubble wrap resin underneath there. So I will have to improvise with that when I put my final coat of, actually just before the final coat of resin, which will be, you know, the final coat will be the one that will seal it all together and finish off the story. Underneath that jellyfish, I do have that little CD DVD kind of baked piece that's sitting underneath there, and you can't see its tail because it's kind of just swims into that the scene, so the tail's behind, you can't see it. And just pretty much carrying on, just doing another fish with that skin there, adding a real fluffy looking like tail and some fins, and kind of a little bit curved. Okay, baby, I'm coming, sweetheart. Sorry, just talking to my dog who is calling me. Oh my goodness, it's all happening. So just painting a tail of that little fishy skin, which I shaped into a fish, but it needed a little bit of highlight and a little bit of something, and adding a little bit of yellow and gold on that green fish because you can hardly see it on top of that dark background. So yeah, it's starting to come alive now, which is quite exciting, using a lot of yellow and gold and red to color in these fish, and also looking at having some kind of realistic look about it, as much as I can possibly do with my skills and what I can do, and with the setting. The underneath all this stuff that I'm painting on is quite bumpy and bubbly, so it's a little bit hard to draw on top of it, but I managed okay, so it's all good so far. I can't really see what I'm... Oh yes, this is what I'm doing. I do apologize, I lost track a little bit. Just drawing some shading underneath there, so that those fish and all the little objects kind of standing out a little bit, and it looks like a real thing in the water, in the whole story, in the whole scene. So giving it a little bit of shading just with a black paint. You can use a dark blue, or it depends on what you're doing really. I just chose to use black and it's worked quite well here. Okay, so continuing on, just doing the shading underneath some of the rocks that I have there, just little pebbles. The rocks actually that I have there, if you haven't watched the previous video, are just moonstone gemstones. They're just white with specks of black. They just look great in here. And just playing with this particular fish, it's amazing the effects that you can get with resin skins and a little bit of paint. It's it's wonderful. So, and once you cover it with resin, it's bloody marvelous. You wouldn't think that it's an actual skin. You would think that you actually painted it in there. So yeah, this little fish is covered in holographic glitter. It's quite shimmery and shiny, and you can't really see it from above. So I was just adding a little bit of detail, just doing the eyes and things, and doing the same with this little fish here, which is kind of curved and looks great. That's just covered. We're just paint covering the actual texture paint. So there's a lot of texture going on here, and there's a lot of different things happening, a lot of detail, that's for sure. Thoroughly enjoyed doing this piece. It was so much fun. It's unbelievable. And I think I might actually keep this piece because I need a lot of art. I've got a lot of walls available in my new house, so I can hang up quite a bit of art there. So I think I might actually keep this one. Or I might... so many things to do. Just going around with some black paint. Actually, it's white. Oh, is it white? Oh no, I think it's still black paint. Just outlining the fish and giving it a bit of a shadow underneath the actual body and the tail of the fish, and around the mouth, just to give it an illusion of the mouth being open, and there's a little bit of a shadow underneath there, so it still looks a little bit wrinkly up the top there. And it's, you know what, it's just sometimes hard when you're actually in the moment and doing a painting and sitting down to see the actual shape of what you're doing, unless you've got your painting up on an easel, which I didn't do. So now I can see where I missed some spots, but I can always fix them a little bit. But this could be just a real old shark, you know, it's starting to flake up a little bit up the top there, you know, it's it happens, I suppose. So anyway, still got another layer to go, so I can fix it later. That's all good. And now going around and colouring in that sea sponge, just going around with a yellow acrylic paint around those gemstones and giving it a little bit of a shape and a bit of colour, and try not to sort of saturate the gemstones because I want them to poke out. And it's all about creating an illusion of something that's there. So those orangey yellowish gemstones poking out of there just give me a little bit of texture and also an illusion. Ooh, somebody just screamed. What you can hear probably is some kids and teachers and stuff carrying on, because I do have a childcare facility near me, so you can hear the kids playing and screaming every now and then. Happily. So that's what it is. I don't know how much you can hear of that, but in case you're hearing it, that's what it is. I'm not strangling any kids at my place. Just trying to confirm that. So having a bit of fun with this painting, and especially because I already did a real professional piece and I lost it by God only knows why. It just went off, and now I have to do it again, so I'm having a bit of fun now. You know, it's that time of day where you don't want to really be too official with things, but still give you enough information so that you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, I'm a real easygoing person. I like to have fun. I have a lot of trouble in my life, but who cares? You know, I'm not going to be projecting this onto my videos. I'm just projecting happiness and, you know, stability and all that good stuff that everybody wants, and some information to some of the pieces that I do, so that you can see how I do things. And I don't do things exactly, you know, right a lot of the times, and there's not always a form and a plan to what I do, but it just tends to work out because I let the painting tell the story. It took me a long time to learn this, and I learned it all by myself and through art therapy, which I studied and watching other people do art. You just got to let it tell a story. So just adding a little bit of red to this fish, and I really love this fish. Later on I will add some gemstones to it as well, and a little bit of sea salt, which tends to stay. The shape of it tends to, you know, not melt in resin, so it's quite cool and doesn't do anything to resin. It just gives it texture. So that's a bit cool, don't you think? So that fish is looking quite pretty right there, and just giving a little bit of shape by shading the around it, you know, with just the black paint, and then adding an eye and a mouth and all that sort of good stuff that it needs. Okay, so adding an eye there and a little bit of highlighting just with white paint. It really adds to the overall look, the white paint, you know. A lot of the times you can add other paints, you know, other colors and create something, but I'm just being real simple here and just adding the white and creating a bit of form and a bit of shape and some character as well, you know. With this shark at the moment, I'm just applying that white, you know. You can see it popping and adding to it, you know. So, and a little bit of black just to outline the mouth and later on the eye, you know, just giving it a little bit. And I can't really see the fin, the top fin just now. I know that I worked on that, so maybe that will come a little bit later. And just coloring in this fish, which was done with the texture paste, adding a bit of red and a little bit of yellow and gold, just acrylic paint, and giving it some character. Love these, they really add to the picture, these reds and yellows. Love it. Don't use them often enough, I think, in my paintings, and I think that I really should, because they're just so vibrant and colourful. And of course, Le'Rez pigments are all about vibrant, colourful, and we have the most beautiful red, which is a sassy red, and a really pretty Nemo yellow. So look into that if you're doing resin art. They're pastes and they work brilliantly with epoxy resins because they are epoxy based. So they only work in epoxy resins. Playing with some more fish here. That fish that is a little bit curved, I absolutely love it. Just adding some detail to it and making it look pretty. Another thing that you may be, another sound rather, that you may be hearing is my bird. It's a lorikeet parrot, and I rescued her because she crashed into my outdoor stairs many years ago, in 2006 actually, and broke her leg, and I took her to the vets, and the vet said you can't really release her now because she is damaged and other birds will kill her. So, alright Chippy, I know. So she can hear me talking now, and God, I had to stop recording for a second there. She was really going to town. Because there are other lorikeets flying over, which is really sad because they're free. But she would have lived much longer and will live much longer than them because she's, you know, in captivity and looked after really, really well. So it's really weird talking about birds and dogs and things while I've drawing fish here. But well, I'm done with this. Everything's happening in this piece. Even the crows flying over. Oh my God! What's next? I didn't do anything. What is next? Really? Okay, so I've got to... I mean, really? I noticed that I haven't really finished this picture because underneath that shark there's still that bit of texture left that I haven't coloured in with anything, so I kind of left it there, not even noticing it because I was focusing on fish so much. So yeah, I'm just going to fix that up in the next piece. Bit of tape over there. So that's coming off nicely. So I need it to, excuse me, come up to about here, like that, and then I'll cut it there, and then I'll just continue with my tape. Okay, so now I've fixed my tape. This is going to be okay there, hopefully, we'll see. It's going to be quite thick, this resin. This fish keeps popping up. It's going to be real interesting to see what happens with it. Might have to pull it out. It just does not want to stay down. I might actually go over it first. Put some on the side. Alrighty, let's just go. The whole area is going to be covered. It looks pretty neat so far. But, and then I'll probably, most likely, have to do another bit of play with some acrylics over it. Oh, okay, I totally miscalculated the amount of resin that I mixed. I might have to mix some more because it's so bumpy. It's all taken extra resin in, you know. But anywho, I'll just spread this out now as is, and then possibly mix some more resin in a tick. This might poke out a bit, but that's okay as long as it's not sharp and horrible. What a fun project this has been. Isn't that funny when you're doing a project and you're nearing the end and you're thinking, oh my god, it's going to be over soon. Okay, so I think I might do with what I've got here because it's going to need another coat of resin anyway. So I'll just cover what I can with it. Probably use my fingers to spread it around. Just make sure I get into all these little holes here. Get rid of all of that. I'll see how I go anyway. Okay, let's just use my trusty old fingers and spread it around. Make sure it goes into everywhere. It covers everything. It's going to make it much easier for me to paint over it again and just give it extra dimension, which is what you want with a painting like this. This down here is pretty cool looking already. Doesn't need a lot of resin. I actually drew a little key here, so I want to cover that. That was the key to the treasure box, which kind of got lost when the treasure box broke open. The key went, you know, floating out of it. So, pretty cool. I love the way this chain's sitting over this rock here. That looks really nice. So yeah, I'm just going around and just fiddling with this, picking up some of that resin, filling in these holes here. So those holes will be covered, but they will still be, you know, visible. So it makes it look quite interesting, you know. So that's it for this one. I will probably play with it a bit more sometime later on. Oh, and I didn't fix that, did I? Okay, I'll definitely have to do that in the next coat. And the fish want to rise up, which is really not how I planned it, because that glue didn't like it at all. It'll all pour down nicely. Into there. Don't need a lot of resin down here because I've already got that bit quite thick and covered. The fish are looking great. Alright. I'll leave it, let it set for 24 hours or less, a little bit less maybe, because it's already afternoon. This will be ready to play with some more in the morning, and then do the whole thing with a final coat of resin, and then it should be great. I already love it. I think it looks great already. But see that moved? Okay, just let it sit there then. That's where it wants to sit, so I'll let it. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Just gonna zap it a little bit with the heat gun just to get rid of the bubbles. Quite a bit of heating went into that. This would be great if it would sit down, but it doesn't like to. It doesn't want to do it. That was my mistake. I should have used the right glue and maybe waited. So I'm not sure if I want to leave this one because it looks pretty cool, the fish itself. So maybe I will leave it. Might be interesting to see that as a bit of texture, but you never know, I might have to scrape it out. And this one also wants to sit up. That was the real thin piece of resin right there, and the rest of it looks alright. Bit of bubble. The bubbles don't worry me in a water scene like this, underwater scene, because you do get lots of bubbles, you know, from the fish. So instead of creating your own bubbles, it just does it all by itself. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Put a little drop there. It seems to be gathering here in the middle, which is something I don't really want. So we'll tilt it some more. Make it all come down. Actually looks pretty cool. This was quite a fun project. Took some time. But like I said, quite fun. And some of these, this, I don't know if you can see it up there, but some of the, see right there, few pieces of the acrylic, it just moved with resin and it's just sitting on top there. Normally that would be bad, but in this scene it's great, because the top layer should be the one that, you know, I'm going to take good care of, make sure that it's, you know, totally free of any bubbles or anything. But what else, what I wanted to do is, here I've got some honeycomb glitter, which I just want to sprinkle, and what I'll do is I'll just get some in my hand. This is holographic. It's going to give me a real nice shimmer, and my fingers are quite sticky, but it doesn't really matter. But I want to use my fingers so that I can just sprinkle it exactly where I want it, which is over this sea sponge looking thing. Well, it's meant to be a sea sponge, but I don't know if it is or not. Just to give it a little bit of shimmer, and a little bit over here as well. Gives us something extra right there. It actually looks pretty cool. And I might come back when the resin starts to set and then sprinkle some shimmery stuff over my fish as well. So, but for now, I will leave it as is and then come back to it shortly. Oh my goodness, what a mess. Whew. Okay, just a quick moment. Just letting you know, I got rid of those two fish and let them set over there on some plastic. I will maybe add them later, or just draw a fish in there. So what I'm doing here is just adding some of this salt to cover those holes and to create a different kind of texture. It's like that, and I will put some on the tail as well. Don't have any gloves on, but I'm trying not to touch the resin. I just find that it just needed something. You can still see those little holes there, honeycomb kind of things, but you know, this gives it something extra. Not touching the resin, not with my fingers, just touching the tops of that salt, and that salt should stay there. I've already tested it and it works. Okay, so that gives it something extra. See if I can put some of this salt in somewhere else, maybe over here. Sometimes you just can keep adding things, and it just, you know, sometimes it just needs something and you don't know what. And when you don't think about it too much, usually the right idea will just come to you. Just don't overdo it like I normally do. Okay, so that's a little bit different. Just gives it that extra texture. And it's not, doesn't look so roughly drawn on there. Push that in there a bit. And I have this lifted a little bit because the glitter was kind of spreading all over the place, so I wanted falling down towards the end because I don't mind the glitter down here, but I will kind of level it out a little bit in a second, and then we'll probably get that wave looking like effect. Hopefully, we'll see. Adding some more of that texture there. Okay, so the glue is, like I said, amazing. Resin is an amazing glue, so it will kind of solidify everything in there. Just go move this around, see what I mean? All that glittery stuff from that honeycomb, which has a green accent. The glitter I'm talking about, it's all moving down here. Makes it real shimmery and lovely looking like. You would never do this, mixing it around like this with your final coat. I'm doing it because another layer of resin will come on top there. Now I can lift that up and maybe just put something a little bit thinner. So it's still got that fall, so it's still coming down this way, but not too drastically, you see. Okay, done. Okay, so here it is. You can really see, wow, look at that fish there. Looks like it's sitting on top, but it's not. I actually drew that in there or painted it. So my sea sponge, my other little fish that needs a little bit more work done on it. There's some really cool things going on there. And I've popped those fishes back in there. And this one is quite raised. You can see the tail's kind of sticking up. And I'm just kind of poking it in a little bit, and hopefully it'll stay in. And I'm not worried about ruining the resin on top, and because I will cover it again with resin. But look at this fish. How cool is that? So this is it for now. The next stage I will just do a little bit, it'll probably be a short video, just fixing up the, you know, some of the fish, a little bit more shading and things like that, and then putting the coat of clear resin over it and just unveiling, just taking this tape off and seeing what it all looks like. Should be pretty dimensional work, but we'll see. Thanks for watching, you guys. I really appreciate all your support. I just want to show you that little key that I drew in there. My little treasure box, and look at all this beautiful gloriness. Gloriness? Really? Is that even a word? Anyway, there's that little fish there, and I'll go across and show you this little fish, which is also kind of deep down there, eating off that coral. So that's it for now, guys. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.